Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. We're coming to you on this Wednesday, on the 10th of December, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matters. Get to the stories that matter today. Contractor Sara Descaya is already in NBI custody, having turned herself in before the arrest warrant for her was even served. President Bongbong Marcos has ordered Congress to fast-track 4 critical bills focused on governance reform. Now, at the forefront is a long-delayed anti-dynasty bill, which seeks to curb political clans and ensure fair competition. And finding prima facie evidence, the Justice Department filed charges against Atong Ang and 21 suspects over the missing Sabongero's case. Ang now faces 10 counts of kidnapping with homicide and 16 counts of kidnapping with serious illegal detention. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. While no arrest warrant has been issued yet, Sara Descaya's camp says she has already surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation. More in this report.
After the Philippine National Police ordered the manhunt for Sara Descaya, she surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation, even without an arrest warrant yet. Her spokesperson confirmed this in an interview on One News Storycon.
Confirm po, kaninang umaga po, voluntarily surrendered to the FBI.
He clarified that Descaya was not forced to turn herself in, saying the move shows her willingness to cooperate with authorities. Descaya is expected to remain under NBI custody until the court issues an arrest warrant.
Pumunta na po siya sa NBI kasi nga po, bilang abogado, baka nga naman maglabas ng warrant of arrest ang korte. So, at least nandun na siya.
The NBI has yet to confirm this development. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. meanwhile said the arrest warrant against Descaya is expected within the week.
At hindi na rin magtatagal ang pag-aresto sa kanya. Magpapatuloy ang investigasyon. Magpapatuloy ang pagpapanagot.
The case stems from graft and the non-bailable charge of malversation filed by the Office of the Ombudsman against Descaya and several DPWH officials over a 96 million peso ghost flood control project in Davao Occidental. The Ombudsman earlier said the involved DPWH officials are all salary grade 25 and below, meaning the case does not fall under the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan and was instead filed before the Dagu City Regional Trial Court, which is also expected to issue the arrest warrant. The contractors' camp earlier denied that the flood control projects were ghost projects, claiming they were merely damaged by recent typhoons and had to be repaired.
President Bongbong Marcos has directed Congress to expedite action on 4 key reform bills aimed at improving governance and accountability. Now, leading the list is the long-delayed anti-dynasty bill, which aims to limit political power within families and promote fair competition for public office. Marcos also endorsed the Independent People's Commission Act, creating an autonomous body to investigate corruption and systemic governance issues with authority to propose reforms. Now, another priority is the Party List System Reform Act, which seeks to tighten eligibility rules, prevent abuse, and ensure representation aligns with genuine sectoral groups. The president further urged action on the Cadena Act, a transparency measure that would institutionalize public access to detailed government spending and strengthen accountability in the use of public funds. Meanwhile, the Makabayan Bloc has raised its own views on the administration's proposed reforms.
Kailangan ay lubos-lubusan na sana yung ginawa ng Pangulo. Dinerecho na niya na sinertify as urgent para sigurado na maisa sa batas na rin bago yung break ng Kongreso.
They should have done that a long time ago. Sabi nga natin, yung politikong gipit sa pangakong reforma kumakapit. Sa dulo hanggat wala siyang action para sa your word is good but we need actual actions.
The Senate has approved the proposed 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026 on the third and final reading. All 17 senators present voted in favor with no opposition or abstentions. Senate Finance Committee Chair Win Gatchalian said this budget will strengthen government programs while ensuring transparency and accountability to fight corruption. Following the Senate approval, the 2026 General Appropriations Bill will move to the Bicameral Conference Committee. Sessions will be held at the Centro de Turismo in Intramuros, Manila, starting December 11 and expected to finish by December 13. The bicameral meetings are expected to be live streamed for public access. However, Senators Erwin Tulfo and Ping Lacson noted that some House lawmakers are reportedly opposed to public sessions.
Hindi dito sa amin. Sa House, sir? Sa House, ayaw nila. Kaya sabi nga ni Senator Soto, magkaroon sila ng diskusyon. Kasi sabi, ba't pinakailaman? Parang gano'n. Bakit? Lang, islas lang.
We were told na medyo may resistance. Kasi di ba nagpasa kami ng concurrent resolution, walang counterpart eh. Kami nagpasa namin dito, di ba? So ilalaban namin basta't kailangan live stream.
And joining us now, we have on our program Representative Laya de Lima of the ML Party List. Magandang maga po sa inyo, Congresswoman.
Yes, good morning, Gretchen, and sa mga viewers.
Simulan po natin doon sa apat na bills that the President told Congress to prioritize. You earlier said that the President should have gone all the way to certify these bills as urgent. What for you is missing in the President's approach?
Well, as I said, especially two of them, the two bills, to me, would require, is really of urgency, given the public mood, given the very high, ultra high interest of the public on the issue of corruption. So I'm talking about the bill on the creation of a more independent commission, and that is the Independent People's Commission bill on the part of the Senate, and the Independent Commission Against Infrastructure Corruption on the part of the House. So that's the House version. We have two versions, the Senate and the House versions of that bill. And then the second one is the anti-political dynasty bill, because, you know, the issue of the prevalence, the continued prevalence and existence of political dynasties are very much tied up to the issue of corruption. So these are, to me, among of the four bills that are being prioritized. Of course, all of them are important. All of them really are urgent ones in terms of reforms, in terms of good governance. But these two actually can be certified as urgent if the President has enough political will, so that we see immediately the outcome, the result, and it would be a major win on the part of his administration. The people would see that as a major accomplishment.
Congresswoman Akbayan Representative Percy Sendanya was quoted to have said, "Ang gipit sa reforma kumakapit." Do you share the same sentiment of doubting the President's sincerity?
Well, you see, there's really some doubt in the sense that how come all this time, you know, because when was the ICI created? It was sometime in September 11. And then we could see that ICI is struggling in the sense that it has not enough powers, it has not enough resources, and then we have that major development of one of its members, one who is perceived to be very credible, former Public Works Secretary Babe Simpson, resigning. And one of the reasons was that, because he feels that they do not have enough powers to run after, especially the big fishes. They could have, or they can really do more if only they have enough resources and power. And so, since September, we have been pushing for the bill to give more teeth to this independent commission, to make it more independent, to make it more transparent, and to make it more powerful. To achieve its goal of running after all the corrupt, all those responsible for this anomalous, not just flood control project, but all other infrastructure projects. But how come ngayon lang, napipilitan na, forced to good because of the see a growing clamor, growing clamor for that. But you
Pero,
see, that's good enough. I mean, it's a good development. We should appreciate that also. But you know, they have to. The president especially has to will enough political will and influence to have all this accomplished.
Okay, Congresswoman, kayo po ang isa sa mga nag-file po nito sa House. Ano? Taking a look at questions on constitutionality of that specific body, has that been resolved? Because there have been talk about how the powers of this commission might overlap with the Office of the Ombudsman, at yung Ombudsman naman, pareho naman daw ang kanyang mandato, at bakit hindi na lang yun? Dahil institutionalized na po yun at nasa Constitution na po yun. What are your thoughts on that?
On superficial glance, pwedeng sabihin yung ganon, that there seems to be overlapping of the functions and powers and mandate of the Ombudsman. But not really. We disagree with that position na mag-overlap. Because in the first place, dun mismo sa bill, at least in the House version, yung Consolidated Substitute Bill, which is still pending at the Appropriations Committee, but already approved at the Government Reorganization Committee, it specifically stated there that nothing in that bill would diminish, would impair, would encroach into the very powers and mandate of the Ombudsman, which is actually the constitutional body. Because in the first place, at least in the House version of the bill, the lifetime of the term of the independent commission would be only until December 31, 2028, unless extended. And then it would focus only on the anomalous infrastructure project. So it would not focus on any and all kinds of corrupt practices, which is the very scope of the jurisdiction of the Ombudsman. Lahat ng klase ng graft and corruption, violation of the anti-graft laws, the code of conduct of public officials and the employees. So broader ang mandate of that constitutional body, the Office of the Ombudsman. Unlike this, must dedicated because of the call of the times. So I don't think there's any constitutional issue with respect to that. And very defying ang scope ng kanyang powers and functions. And it will actually help Ombudsman kasi hindi kakayanin ng Ombudsman dahil nga meron pa itong mga iba pa ang mga mandato, and it will not also prevent the Ombudsman from doing its own investigation and doing its own job na yan ginagawa naman yan ngayon. Because, it's working on all these referrals now so far from the ICI.
Moving on to the anti-dynasty bill, do you think that one has a good chance, a realistic chance of moving past the House of Representatives? Do you think that the time is ripe and that the tailwinds would carry this through? Ano po ang inyong palagay?
We hope so. We certainly hope so. There is openness already on the part of Congress and even on the part of the House. You see, Speaker Boji had made such pronouncements already, and in fact, he says that he has his own version of anti-political dynasty bill, although we have not seen yet a copy of that. I'm not sure whether he has filed it already, because there have been several anti-political dynasty bills filed. I have my own anti-political dynasty bill. Several other lawmakers, and then including the Akbayan group, they already filed an anti-political dynasty bill, and several other lawmakers. So at least there is openness, and I have not actually sensed any move to block it. I don't know,
Or
maybe
hostile
now they're just
opposition.
being quiet about it. But let's see. But what I'm sure of is that there's going to be a significant level of debate and discussion. Because you see, magkakaroon pa lang the issue about whether it would extend up to whether it's second degree of relationship, third degree, or fourth degree. Yan, pag-uusapan pa yan because are different on that. There are bills na hanggang second degree lang, and then there are bills hanggang fourth degree, and also the issue about simultaneous holding of positions. Kailangan bang, would it be a total ban in the sense na isa lang dapat during an election, one election, isa lang, o pwede bang isa sa national, isa sa local, coming from the same political family? So all those will have to be discussed thoroughly, and we anticipate heated, serious, if not heated, ready, and like before, hindi man na nakakalat sa committee level, hindi man nakarating sa plenary because of resistance. Because, many percentage of members of the House come from political families.
And with public dissatisfaction at one of its highest points right now, I do agree with you, that it might be a good time to push this because also the institution needs to regain the trust of the people. But what do you think about the proposal of Congressman Erice? Ang sabi po niya, pwede pong magkaroon ng petition for the Supreme Court itself to be the one to draft its own legal definition of a political dynasty. At ang kanyang argument po ay it's been 4 decades since the Constitution ordered Congress to pass a law on dynasties. Thus, hindi pa nagagawa yun in 4 decades. Thus, the SC can take matters in its own hands already. Your thoughts on that? Is that legally tenable?
Well, that position actually evinces pessimism on na ang iniisip ni my colleague, Congressman Erice, is that next to impossible to pass the anti-dynasty bill. But I still hoping na makakapasa, magkakaroon ng anti-dynasty bill. So that is an option actually. Ang parang sinasabi dito, pwedeng mag-judicial legislation ang Supreme Court. But what the Constitution says is that there has to be a law that actually defines political dynasty. But that proposal would entail the Supreme Court engaging in what we call judicial legislation. Now it actually depends on how the Supreme Court will do it. Theoretically, it can be done, but how exactly the Supreme Court will do it has to be within the very bounds of the Constitution. But then again, it's the Supreme Court that ultimately says what is constitutional. So even if people will disagree that, you cannot do that because that is actually tantamount to judicial legislation, but once the Supreme Court says that it's okay, that's what the Supreme Court says, okay, we'll do it ourselves, then who can question that? So that is actually a pragmatic solution that's being proposed by Congressman Erice, because maybe he sees really that very, very little chance, if not nil, to have an anti-dynasty bill at the congressional level.
I guess that's the other prerogative here in this equation. Next week will be the bicameral conference sessions, and sabi nga po that these will be live streamed, but according to a report prior to this interview, meron pong resistance dyan. Kayo po, ano pong palagay po ninyo? What's the update on that? Kahapon, sinabi po ng aming interviewee na si Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong na ang kulang po dito ay to actually legislate it. The bicameral conference has indicated they would want to be in that direction, to have this live stream. Pero iba pa rin yung may actual resolution o meron bill na tumatakbo. What's the update on that?
Mas maganda talaga kung meron joint resolution. In fact, meron talaga kaming joint resolution. We filed it. Ako po kasama doon, and then nandun po the Akbayan block, and then nakasama rin po namin si Congresswoman Crisel Lagman, and also Congresswoman Nakakabag-Aw, that we call ourselves the Reform Bloc. We filed that July, if I'm not mistaken, or September. We filed the joint resolution number 2, and we're just wondering how come it is not moved. And I'm planning to raise it actually later, in the form of a parliamentary inquiry. Although I heard a statement from the Appropriations Committee Chair, Tuan Singh, that the House is committed to for the live streaming of the BICAM. Pero syempre iba kung merong joint resolution, because the Senate meron sila.
Yes.
But how come the House has not actually adopted a similar resolution, which has been pending, as I said? So
But
I'm going
would
to ask-
a joint resolution be enough to institutionalize the practice?
Well, at the moment, pwede na po yun. Because, it was a bill, it would take a longer process. So maybe next time, a bill can be passed that would really institutionalize that practice. But at the moment, pwedeng munang joint resolution. So both the Senate and the House, but the Senate already has its own, then the House should do its part.
Okay. The Makabayan Bloc earlier announced plans to refile an impeachment complaint against the Vice President come February. Kayo po ba, ang grupo po ninyo, the Reform Group, do you have also plans to move in that direction? Or are you hearing anything about people planning to file an impeachment against the President? Because if you put it side by side, kung titignan niyo po yung mga numero, parang medyo mas malaki po yung lumalabas dito na korupsyon sa flood control probe. I mean, how has your group balanced that out in terms of where you find yourselves in the political spectrum?
There has been no formal discussion yet on the matter. What we're doing now is that we've been monitoring all of this development, and especially itong mga pronouncements na ito from the President, and how the investigations, because we are really pushing for this independent commission para nga talagang magkaroon o mas palawak, mas comprehensive, mas independent investigation, and let's see where the evidence, the complete evidence will reach or will point to. And if this evidence will point to the highest, then let's see what should be the next step in terms of exacting accountability. But as I said, wala pang mga formal discussions about that matter.
Okay, and we are with you in keeping our eyes zoned in on the probe, and
Yes.
we support that
The highest
resolution.
form of vigilance. We are adopting and exhibiting the highest form of vigilance.
All right. Maraming salamat po for joining us today and giving your reaction to the 4 bills that the President has asked Congress to prioritize. Maraming salamat. We have Representative Laya de Lima of the ML Party List.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
And coming right up, fresh cases tied to the flood control scandal may be filed before the Sandigan Bayan as early as this week. All that and more when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Several new cases are expected to be filed at the Sandigan Bayan this week in connection with the flood control scandal. Here's a report.
Several new cases linked to the flood control scandal may be filed at the Sandigan Bayan this week. Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano said they will ensure that the cases are based on solid evidence.
Kasi hindi naman natin hinahabol ang headline lang. Hindi natin hinahabol ang good news lang bago magpasko. Ang hinahabol ho natin yung totoong accountability, totoong may mananagot sa mga kasalanang ginawa sa taong bayan.
Ombudsman Boying Rimulya previously said that arrest warrants could be issued against the major personalities involved in the scandal also called the Big Fish. Clavano confirmed this is still possible.
It's possible na merong iba na malalabasan ng warrant of arrest, pero hindi pa muna lahat dahil kailangan po tayo dumaan sa tamang proseso. No? So, we do have to balance itong speed na gusto natin na mangyari lahat before the end of this year, but at the same time, yung quality din ng mga cases ang kailangan din nating tignan. Hindi naman po yan strict deadline. It's a deadline that he imposed on himself so that we have to balance kasi yung speed, tsaka yung quality, tsaka due diligence, no?
Meanwhile, complaints against former Senator Bong Revilla are in the advanced stage of preliminary investigation at the Department of Justice. Revilla is linked to the scandal after former DPWH District Engineer Henry Alcantara claimed he inserted around 300 million pesos in budget allocations in 2024. Former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo allegedly delivered kickback money to Revilla's residence in Cavite. Revilla has denied these allegations. In another development, the graft and malversation through falsification case filed against DPWH officials in Davao Occidental and St. Timothy Construction, including Sara Diskaya, will be transferred to the Special Anti-Graft Court as designated by the Supreme Court.
So the procedure was that we would file the case in Digo City, being the place where the public official held office. From there, it would be endorsed to the next judicial region so as not to invite any conflict of interest. And then that designated court will be the one to issue the warrant of arrest.
The PNP has released 10.6 million pesos in cash rewards to 30 informants whose tips have led to the arrest of suspects in major criminal cases. The largest reward, 5.3 million pesos, went to an informant who helped authorities locate several Abu Sayyaf members wanted for multiple murder and frustrated murder charges. Other recipients provided information that helped solve cases of rape, kidnapping, illegal detention, and other high-profile crimes. Acting PNP Chief Jose Melencio Nartate says the reward system remains a crucial tool in speeding up arrests and encouraging the public to cooperate.
Isa tool, siyempre mapapabilis. Mahihikayat natin ang ating mga kababayan magbigay ng mga information.
We will not stop hanggang masatisfy and or maaresto natin as ordered by the court.
The Department of Justice has indicted businessman Atong Ang and 21 others over the disappearance of several Sabongeros. The DOJ said its panel of prosecutors found prima facie evidence with reasonable certainty of conviction to indict Ang for 10 counts of kidnapping with homicide and 16 counts of kidnapping with serious illegal detention. DOJ spokesman Polo Martinez said that 26 complaints will be filed before the regional trial court in Lipa City, Santa Cruz, Laguna, and San Pablo, Laguna. Notably, actress Gretchen Barreto, who had been linked to the scandal, was not among those indicted. Transport group Manibela kicked off its 3-day strike with a caravan to the LTFRB on Tuesday. Manibela President Mar Balbuena said this is their last resort to get the government's attention against supposed excessive penalties and non-renewal of franchises. Piston held a protest vigil at 3 p.m. in front of the LTO Central Office to demand the release of all PUVs impounded during the November 30 anti-corruption protests. Meanwhile, Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon and DOTR Acting Chief Giovanni Lopez conducted an inspection of EDSA sidewalks. Together with the Move as One coalition, they walked a 4.4-kilometer stretch of EDSA from Ayala Avenue in Makati City all the way to Rojas Boulevard. In an interview with The Big Story, Abigail Modales, active transport lead of the coalition, flags safety and accessibility issues along EDSA.
Isa lang po ang naging malinaw, mas naging malinaw during our walk earlier this morning. Hindi po ligtas at hindi accessible ang paglalakad along EDSA, lalong-lalo na sa mga persons with disability.
Up next, the Commission on Human Rights has introduced a new digital tool known as the Laya Calculator. We'll discuss that development with CHR Commissioner Faida Dumarpa after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning, Gretchen Ho here in Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind headlines. The Commission on Human Rights has launched a new digital tool called the Laya Calculator to help determine how much time a person deprived of liberty has left to serve. The tool standardizes the computation of good conduct time allowance and time allowance for study, teaching, and mentoring, bringing transparency and consistency to release date calculations in the Philippine correctional system. Developed with support from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the Laya Calculator also addresses gaps in record keeping that often leave inmates uncertain about their sentence. This digital tool follows the Nelson Mandela rules, ensuring release dates are clear and up to date. To talk more about this Laya Calculator, we have on the show CHR Commissioner Faida Dumarpa. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Yes, assalamualaikum po. Magandang umaga.
Assalamualaikum. Unang-una, tell us about this Laya Calculator. How does this work? Is this a new app, website? Is this accessible for the public to use? And what is it made of?
Yes, actually, the Laya calculator is something that we did in partnership with the UNODC, the Australian aid. The intention there is to make the computation of the GCTA or the good conduct time allowance accessible to everybody. Kasi ang hirap niyang i-compute. The purpose is so that even the relatives of those persons deprived in liberty can calculate it for themselves. Even the PDL himself or herself can do it. Everyone can do it. That's the intention to ensure na tama yung panahon ng detention ng isang PDL habang sila po ay nasa loob ng ating mga places of detention, ma'am.
Okay, and ano po yung calculation na part no formula?
Actually, the formula, this is the technical part, I have to say, ma'am. The technical part of the making or constructing the app is primarily done by the UNODC as the experts, no? The technical work side of it. Ang formula po actually, I cannot tell you how the formula is, but we're following the law, we're following the Mandela rules, and even as a layman or as an ordinary person, nandyan na po kasi siya, you just have to enter the date, the days na yung penalty rather or the period of imprisonment, and then just click on calculate and it's there, no? So kahit po hindi tayo, katulad ko po, as an ordinary person, hindi ako maalam sa math, I can do the calculation.
Miss Faida? Ayan, wala po
Yes
kayo.
po.
Can you hear me? There you go.
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you po.
Okay. Yung regarding that formula, no, siguro more of the elements that come into this para mapababa yung sentensya. Kasi for example, kung ako po ay PDL at gusto ko pong makalaya ng mabilis, mahaba yung like sabihin natin 30 years, at pwede ko ba makompute yun na parang gagawa ko ng mabuti, I'll serve this much hours to expedite that release date? At ano po yung mga pwede kong gawin, no, to find hope amid my situation?
That's absolutely possible. Actually, during the launch of the application, as an example, Dr. Toby of UNODC asked us to open the app, and then as an example, we have a PDL na may 40 years sentence, no? So that's 40 years ang haba. After computing the GCTA that may be deducted, no, sa penalty ng isang PDL, for example po ma'am, would be kung siya po ay nag-aaral, no? Kung siya po ay nagtuturo kasama sa kanyang mga kapwa PDL, and good conduct time allowance as well kung siya po ay mabuti sa loob, no? This can yung po yung mga factors na pwedeng ma-count in. Of course, I have to mention as well, ma'am, kasama po sa pagko-compute yung nakakulong po kayo habang tayo or ang isang PDL habang siya po ay dinidinig sa korte. So for example, during his stay sa detention facility while his case is being heard, no, 6 months, kasama po yun sa computation. So ang 4 years, for example, or reclusion perpetua, with the maximum GCTA that a PDL can receive, pwede po siyang maging 17 years and a few months or days, no? Yung po yung laki nung pwedeng importansya ng GCTA dahil from 40 years, as you can see, more than half yung pwedeng mabawas, at in 17 years pwedeng makalaya ang isang PDL po, ma'am.
Lahat po ba qualified to have their sentence cut short? All crimes?
Yes, ma'am. Under the law, even the severest penalty that can be imposed by our courts, that would be the reclusion perpetua, pwede po, applicable po. Pwede pong mag-avail ang ating mga PDL.
Okay. Medyo malaking bagay po yun, no? From 40 to 17. I wanted to ask because you also said, you also mentioned yung judicial system po natin plays a factor in this Laya calculator. I know that one of the main problems or major problems of our correctional system is that there is a huge population of within our prisons that are still in the pre-trial stage. Paano naman po sila? Na hindi pa po nasisintensyahan, hindi pa po nako-convict.
Ideally, no, ang ating procedure or ating batas requires po na as soon as ang isang tao ay magiging PDL, pagpasok pa lang halimbawa sa BJMP bilang ang kanyang kaso ay dinidinig pa lang sa korte, kasama na po yung day 1 nun sa pag-calculate ng ating GCTA. Kaya po importante yung correct documentation. Even the hour, ma'am, has to be documented, has to be put there kasi binibilang po pati oras, ma'am.
And then this Laya calculator or the GCTA, which is good conduct time allowance, ito po ba could be entered into official records and could be used as basis? Or is this just a tool na pwede lang pong tumulong sa kanila to understand o gagamitin na rin po ito mismo ng correctional system po natin?
At present, our correctional system has their own Laya calculator or the GCTA calculator, no? Meron po sila sarili, but based also during the launching, the Bucor acknowledged, and even Dr. Toby of UNEDC acknowledged that it is the same formula, as you said, ma'am. No? It is the same formula on how to compute. Our purpose naman for launching this is that so that it can be more transparent and accessible, and so that we encourage our the management of our detention facilities to actually document correctly, no, the hours na i-google po ng isang PDL sa loob para po pwede mong i-check na halimbawa the Bucor would say, oh, ang GCTA mo pa lang 1 year, but you have your own to double check, no, if tama po ang computation nila. So that's one way also of promoting transparency, accessibility po, and of course inclusivity po ng ating mga PDLs.
And speaking of those problems, what led you to come up with this calculator? Help us gain more insight into the situation within our correctional system in our prisons. Ano po ba yung mga pinaka-problema po at ito po ang naisip niyong solusyon?
Ma'am, first, as you said po kanina, no, ang ating congestion rate, no, is general, no, total ng ating mga detention facilities nasa 2,000% po ang ating congestion rate. Ganun po kasikip at kahirap ang situation ng ating mga PDL sa loob. Secondly po, because of the inaccuracy and the lack of records, no? Well, kung karamihan po sa nai-interview namin PDL, we would ask them if they have their own record, no? Wala po sa kanila. And if they request, it takes months, no, to be able to access the records. And we are hoping that with the Laya calculator, with the families even of the PDL being able to access or compute kung kailan makakalaya yung mahal nila sa buhay, it would promote transparency, no, parang mapapabilis po. And of course, sabi ko nga po, inclusivity. And yung justice po na dapat po na umaandar sa sistema, even with our PDLs, ay makamit po din nating lahat.
Oo, pero yung problema ko dun sa congestion sa ating correctional system ay marami nga ho ay natatagalan yung pagproseso ng kanilang mga kaso. Hindi pa sila na sentensyahan, hindi pa sila yun nga nabibigyan ng desisyon, pero they spend most of their lives already in prison. Hindi po ba parang pag tinignan po, pag sinama po natin yan dito ay medyo mahihirapan ipababa yung yung sentensya. Paano po 'yun? Hindi po ba unknown figure po 'yun? How exactly do you give an estimate to how long that will go through our judicial system?
Yung time po na spent ng isang PDL while in detention, while being heard before our courts, ideally kasama po yung period na yon, no? As soon as a person is arrested and detained, kasama po yun po yung day 1 niya. As to the judiciary, kung paano natin ma-incorporate, one of our plans po, with here at the commission and with our partners, hopefully, is that next year po, we hope to roll out as well, no, ito pong ating Laya calculator sa atin pong judiciary, if of course they will allow us to do so. We hope to reach out to them kasi po ang aming isang tinitingnan po would be if it's possible. Of course we will check with the rules, no, ng ating judiciary, if it's possible na yung ating pong mga sentensya pagbabasahan po ng sakdal ang ating mga PDL or ang ating akusado rather, na pwede pong nakasama na doon sa decision, no, yung calculation. By calculation I mean that the period, no, na stay ng isang PDL sa detention while the case is being heard. That way po, it's on record, it's on the decision, and it's easier again to access the information and easier to compute the GCTA of the PDL map.
What are some of the best practices that you see abroad? You mentioned nga parang ito nga magkakaroon sila ng access mismo doon sa Laya calculator para mag-double check po sila, mag-side by side with the Bureau of Corrections. Sa ibang bansa po ba ganun ang siste?
We are not aware po if there is such a similar system, no, sa ibang jurisdiction natin. But one of the best practices po ng ating mga ibang kapitbahay natin or other jurisdictions, other countries, especially po sa mga first world countries, would be the accurate, no, and the complete documentation ng isang PDL. Hindi po mahirap i-compute because they have the complete documentation from day 1, from the first hour of the detention of the PDL. Sa atin po, medyo admittedly, based on our monitoring, ma'am, when we go to our detention facilities, yun po yung problema ng mga PDL because sila po mismo na nakakulong, they don't have any information kung nasaan na po sila.
Kung nire-record ba?
Yes.
Oo. So this one ensures somehow the keeping of professional records. So yung pa lang doon pa lang medyo nahuhuli na tayo. I mean, if you take a look at the digitalization rate po sa ating gobyerno, medyo huli naman po talaga tayo. Okay, how will PDLs gain access to this Laya calculator? Is this going to be given to them? Because alam po natin na may internet po ba yun? May internet ba doon? Paano nyo po ibibigay po yan sa kanila at ipapaintindi?
yung sa ating pong mga mismong PDL po, yung access po nila, because you need to be online, ma'am. It's available on our website, so there has to be an internet connection. As to the access, we hope to coordinate. This is of course because we have to coordinate with our, for example, Bucor and BJMP at provincial municipal jails para po magkaroon siguro ng malinaw na guidelines, kasi po may mga rules po rin. We have to respect and acknowledge that there are rules po no, pagka limited ang liberty ng isang tao. So we have to coordinate with the detention facility management on how an access can be provided sa ating po mga PDLs. And we hope to do this next year, ma'am.
Just to, I guess, provide more concrete examples, how might the likes of Janet Lim Napoles and Sarah Descaya, how might they be able to use this para mapababa yung kanilang sentensya? Si Janet Lim Napoles, I think, reclusion perpetua po sa kanya, at si Sarah Descaya naman, arrest warrant pa lang. But not sure though kung ano yung kung gaano kahaba. So kailangan po nilang ano po yung mga pwede nilang gawin para bumaba yung kanilang term.
With the examples po na sinet ni Ma'am, no, Descaya and Janet Napoles, similar to any other PDL, yung kanilang as soon as they get detained, day one, part na po yun ng kanilang magiging calculation. Pag nasentensyahan po, similar po. And of course, if they do, if they're, kumbaga, nag-avail po sila ng good conduct allowance, magturo po sila po ay mag-aral, and other means so that it can be deducted from their sentence. Ganun din po, no? Wala pong pagkakaiba. But as to the access, right now, ma'am, sabi ko nga po, we have to coordinate with the management of the detention facilities kung paano makaka-access ang ating mga PDL. But hopefully, they have their family members, they have their lawyers po, na nasa labas, na with the click of a phone, they can access the Laya calculator and makakalculate po nila ang kanilang possible na paglaya, no? Using the GCTA calculator, ma'am.
Has the Bureau of Corrections expressed openness to working with the CHR on this and actually implementing the Laya calculator?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, during the launching of this Laya calculator, we signed our pledge of commitment. We're happy to share to everyone po that very cooperative naman po, very positive po ang response sa amin ng Bucor. And we hope to continue po yung aming maayos na pag-uusap para po sa ating mga PDLs po.
Okay, maraming salamat at tama po kayo. No, I mean, thank you for turning our attention to this problem, the abysmal state of our prisons in the Philippines. We actually have the highest number in Southeast Asia of pre-trial and remand detainees, and second highest in all of Asia. About 5,200 inmates die at the Bilibid prison every year due to overcrowding, disease and violence. Some statistics there to back up yung mga sinabi niyo po kanina, no? But that highlights how much we need to focus on this. Lalong-lalo na in the midst of a flood control probe that is bound to send more to our jails, hopefully. Maraming salamat for your time. We have CHR Commissioner Faida Dumarpa.
Salamat po.
Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a quick break. We'll be giving you an update on the Southeast Asian Games. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still with us on Morning Matters here in One News. The Philippines continues its dominant run in SEA Games baseball, scoring back-to-back Mercy Rule wins and staying undefeated. For the latest updates from Bangkok, we have One Sports' Bea Escudero. Magandang maga sa'yo, Bea. Kamusta dyan? Kahapon nag-opening ceremony nung medyo late na ng gabi. How was that? How did that go? At pangalawa, ano na yung mga wins ng Team Pilipinas?
Well, you know, Gretchen, good morning to you, of course. There over in Manila, it has been such an exciting last few days, especially with the opening ceremonies happening yesterday with, of course, our flag bearer, Alex Ayala. And volleyball star Brian Bagunas really just, leading the way for the Philippines for this 33rd Southeast Asian Games. We were able to speak to a lot of the athletes. They were saying how excited they were to be representing the Philippines in this edition of the Southeast Asian Games. And of course, excited na rin sila to get their competitions going because we do have a lot of those heading our way in the next few days, including, let me just give you a rundown lang, no, Gretchen. We do have our Olympians, some of them who will be coming back as well, including Aliyah Finnegan, who will be competing today at 11 a.m. That's Philippine time. We also do have rising stars such as Eldru Yulo and Eliza Yulo, Carlos Yulo's siblings, who will be competing in their respective categories in gymnastics events today. We also have our boxing, Yumir Marshall, Nessie Petesio, Ira Villegas, and Hergy Bacyadan, who are set to continue their campaigns in the coming days. But we do have a lot more, including baseball, who, of course, we all know will be going through a series of tests as they go up against Thailand, who we all know will be their rivals in this SEA Games, including football, who, from what I know, our men's football team will be competing in the semifinals for the first time after 34 years. So those are just, some of the few things that we can expect here in the Southeast Asian Games.
How about EJ Obiena and Alex Iyala? What are their prospects for the Southeast Asian Games?
Well, of course, EJ Obiena will be competing in the men's pole vault. That will be happening on December 16. I believe he is not here yet, but we will be getting more information about, how his preparations have been going. As for Alex Ayala, our correspondent or our partner here, Denise Tan, was able to speak to her, and she's just really excited to get back into the Southeast Asian Games. It's been a while, she says, but now that she is ranked number 50, a lot of eyes are on her, but she's really just trying to take it with a lot of grace and just really just soaking in every moment of every moment of her time here in Bangkok. There's still no word as to when her schedule will be coming out. People are saying it might be December 13 or 14, so we will have to wait for that update.
Is Alex the highest ranked WTA player there? Sino yung mga abangan natin?
Yes, Alex is the ranked number 50 right now, the WTA. She is not too far behind Indonesia, from what I know, who is at about number 53, if I'm not mistaken. But, people are already there's already a lot of word going around that this will be the finals for them. It will be Alex against Indonesia. But, of course, fingers crossed that everything goes well for our Filipina tennis player, Alex.
Okay, going back to baseball, do we have a chance of winning gold in that sport?
Gretchen, the past few days has been very significant, especially this win for baseball, because the Philippines have been nothing short of dominant. They have had back-to-back Mercy Rule victories. They have stayed undefeated, giving them that strong momentum heading into the real test, which will be the looming matchup against Thailand. These early wins, according to the players, according to the coaches, it doesn't just boost their confidence, it also sends a signal that they are the defending champions, they are locked in, and they are ready. But if I may note, the only time that we failed to take gold in the SEA Games baseball event was in the last 4 editions that we were able to compete, was when Thailand beat us, which was back in 2007. And back in 2019, it was the Philippines who topped gold, Thailand getting silver. So there is added pressure. And, after speaking to Philippine Amateur Baseball Association President Boy Tingzon and head coach, of course, Orlando Benaro, they are a little bit concerned about the naturalized players of Thailand who is set to field because, but because of that, the team is also treating this like a championship game, tightening those scouting reports, making better decisions, and putting bigger emphasis on limiting those errors. So this will be definitely an exciting match and possibly a gold medal preview.
Yeah. I will not let you go without talking about my 2 favorite sports. That's, of course, volleyball and basketball. Sa basketball, hindi na pinayagan yung mga naturalized players natin. Kamusta naman yung lineup? Paano yung mga adjustments? At sa volleyball naman, sino yung magiging matinding kalaban? At ano ang na-expect natin na positioning dito sa Southeast Asia?
Well, Gretchen, unfortunately, I was not able to speak to our Alas Pilipinas players just yet because they did just arrive recently. They were with Denise yesterday, but what I know and what we're all sure about is that these players are definitely excited. They've been anticipating this 33rd Southeast Asian Games edition. As for basketball, yes, the naturalized players were not able to compete, or they will not be able to compete. But speaking to a lot of the people part of SBP and all, they are pretty confident about the players that they are fielding, despite not being able to bring in the naturalized players for the SEA Games.
Okay. Yun nga lang, medyo malaking adjustment, no? Kasi last minute na sinabi itong desisyon ng Thailand na huwag payagan ng ating mga naturalized, which is comprised of Justin Brownlee, si Ange Kwame, kasama din yata doon, but we still have the likes of the Ravenna brothers, Ray
Ravenna
Parks
will be playing as well, yes.
Oo. Junmar Fajardo, part of that lineup. Tama ba? Okay. Maraming salamat sa iyo for giving us an updates on the Southeast Asian Games and outlook on what's about to happen. Catch those games over here on Signal TV and One Sports. We have One Sports reporter Bea Escudero joining us live from Bangkok in Thailand. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your Wednesday morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.